Building a brand is, essentially if it's like an individual brand, like for a speaker, for example, or someone who wants to, who has a message to share. The idea is you want to share as much of your personal experience as you can. You share something like, for example, recently we started this is during the pandemic. So May 2020, we start distributing groceries. We realized that there were a lot of people who just got laid off from their jobs. Things started shutting down. People lost their only source of income. Now they don't have personal supplies. They don't have enough for groceries. They don't have enough for food. So we created this whole idea of, hey, let's get a bunch of people together, get volunteers, get resources, get the funding, get money, put all of it together and offer something to the people. And what I realized is in this journey is one thing is you have to get your hands dirty.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
This is Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, and I'm your host, Omobola Stephen. Now, if you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of Life Well Lived, you can go online and search for Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen on any podcast distribution platforms you bump into, and do have an amazing time. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen is a self-improvement, personal development podcast with the occasion of expert and professionals who come to the show to share disruptive mindshift content on any topics on the personal development and self-improvement. Now, it's been a worthwhile discussion till date, having this expert share profound insight on topics on the personal development and self-improvement. It's a pleasure to have Varun Ghandi, the life orchestrator and soulpreneur on the show with me today. Welcome to Life Well Lived, Varun Ghandi.
Thank you, Omobola. Love and abundance, everyone. So appreciate being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming to the show, Varun. Really excited to have you on this show. Now, I'm looking forward to your personal life experience, right? And also professional insight that you like to share with my audience on personal development. Now, can you share with my audience really what soulpreneurship is all about and why is it the latest way?
So before we do this, before I answer the soulpreneurship question, I'd like to do a sort of a water ritual that I do every time. And everyone that's listening in right now, I'd like them to take a cup of water and just take a sip with me right now. So everyone can just join me in taking a sip right now. The reason I do this is because I've spoken to a lot of people and most of them are dehydrated and they don't realize it. They don't drink enough water during the day. And because of this, I feel like I took it upon myself to share this message of, hey, let's drink more water. And this is my way of reminding people that it's time to drink water. Because now they're realizing that, oh, now I'm thirsty, I need water. They'll take a sip. And then by the end of this interview, they'll probably have taken 2 or 3 more sips. So but in this 1 hour, they would have drank, enough water and they'll feel really refreshed just by drinking water. So question about soulpreneurship. It's a story of me living that traditional life. I have this, I was in high school, then went to a college, then in college, undergrad, then got an advanced degree, then got a PhD, then got a job. So I was in this traditional path, and my next thing was to find a wife. But then something wasn't agreeing with inside of me. I had some sort of like if you want to call it like a pain. So I graduated my PhD and I was working at this job. I was very comfortable, had everything that you could ask for. But I woke up one day and about a year into this job, and I started having pains in my stomach area. So this is like the solar plexus chakra, for those that, know about the chakras and the energy systems. And in this chakra, then I started having, it started off like small pain. Over time, it grew. Within 3 months, it grew to like, it was unbearable. I'd wake up every morning with this pain. And then at some point I had to sit myself down and ask, like, be with that pain and ask it questions like, what's the message here? Like, why are you here for me? And then I finally got this question, like, why are you going to this job? Like, what is in this job? Like, what's your kind of thing behind it? And I couldn't come up with a good answer. I asked people, I asked my friends, and they would justify it. Oh yeah, you're working, what I was doing was important. I was, making sure that the drinking water that we get in the house was clean. And that was an important job. But I feel like what I was doing personally in that job wasn't making much of a difference. And I felt like there was something greater for me in this life that I could have, something greater for me to achieve. And I thought, okay, this is not it. So finally, I had to make this decision to leave that job, leave that whole career behind, and enter entrepreneurship. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just jumped into something. So I got out of it. And I said, let me just, go along the journey and see what's going to come along my way. So I got into entrepreneurship. I started an idea with a friend, worked on that for a couple of years. And then along this time, I was also going into my darkness. The whole time when I was in Idaho, my consulting job, the job that I worked for 2 years, was in Idaho. I've never been to Idaho before. I moved there for this job, but the reason I moved there is because it was kind of like my moment in the cave. That was my cave, because I didn't know anyone in Idaho when I moved there. And I was going into my darkness as well, because I had just broken up, gotten out of this really dark relationship. It was a great relationship, but the time after that was really dark for me. And I moved to Idaho, kind of leaving everything behind. All my memories, everything that was in the East Coast, I wanted to leave it behind so I could go somewhere and be free from it. So I was kind of running away from it. But then that's where I was confronted with all of the stuff that led to the downfall of that relationship. All the jealousy inside of me, all the, the pain and the suffering inside of me. So I finally confronted that. But it took me time. I was running away from it the whole time. I was drinking alcohol, killing the pain, trying to do everything I could to run away from that pain. Finally, in the last 6 months of my time in Idaho, I picked up this book called The Book of Secrets by Deepak Chopra. And in this book, he talks about, it's a very deep book. 95% of this book I didn't understand. It went over my head. But that few percentage that I understood, I picked up this word called meditation. And so this began my journey into understanding what meditation is and realizing the benefits of meditation. Along the way, so about a couple of years into it, I met a guru who created this kind of meditation called the full chakra activation. And so him and I partnered up, and that's how I got into soulpreneurship. Essentially, it started with a meditation, and then it led to a whole bunch of products and services that give you a physical cleanse, that give you a spiritual cleanse, that give you a mental cleanse, and that give you an emotional cleanse. So it's kind of like the holistic approach to spirituality.
Right. Thank you for that. Varun, I know that you have, a lot of personal life experiences you like to share with my audience. But really, let's talk about building one's personal story and building a brand. So how can a person build a brand from their personal life story? Now, my audience will like you to share from your own personal experience and from your professional expertise.
So building a brand is, essentially, if it's like an individual brand, like for a speaker, for example, or someone who wants to, who has a message to share. The idea is you want to share as much of your personal experience as you can. You share something like, for example, recently we started this is during the pandemic. So May 2020, we start distributing groceries. We realized that there were a lot of people who just got laid off from their jobs. things started shutting down. People lost their only source of income. Now they don't have personal supplies. They don't have enough for groceries. They don't have enough for food. So we created this whole idea of, hey, let's get a bunch of people together, get volunteers, get resources, get the funding, get money, put all of it together and offer something to the people. And what I realized is in this journey is one thing is you have to get your hands dirty. You have to be out there doing the work so that now when you are on a platform like yours, Omobola, I can share these stories and share what my values are. So one of my values is service to people. And that is part of my brand, is always serving people. So now I've done this work, which I'll go into the details again later. I'm not going to bring it up right now, but I've done all this work. So I can now come onto this platform and say, hey, look, my value is service, and this is how I put it into action. And so now as I share these stories of people, going through pains in their life, people going through suffering in their life, and now I'm, sharing, okay, this is the solution that we provided. So this is imprinting in people's minds that, oh, this person has this value of service. He's not just talking about it, he's actually living that life. And creating a brand is essentially sharing these personal stories of, okay, this is what I've been through. These are the pains and sufferings that I faced, and this is how I can help you. People relate to stories. So there was a research article that was written where the scientists, what they did is they took this lady who knows English and Russian, and they gave her a story to narrate. So she was narrating the story in English and Russian. At the same time, they measured her brain waves, and they were checking like what parts of the brain were activating as she was narrating the story. So as she was narrating the story, they also recording the whole thing, and they measured all of this stuff. And then now they started the experiment. They took a whole bunch of people, broke them up into different groups. All of them only knew English. They didn't know Russian. So they heard the English recording and they measured their brain waves. What they found out is that the brain waves was exactly the same as the person narrating the story, the recording. So what that means is through storytelling, my brain is activating a certain way when I'm sharing the story. And Omobola, your brain is activating a certain way when you're hearing the story. But the brain activation is exactly the same. And that's how we are in sync with each other. And that's the power of stories. So that's why brands have to use the power of storytelling so they can get themselves and their eventual potential client in sync with each other.
Right. Thank you for that, Varun. Now, in talking about building a brand to your personal life. Now, before we get to that, that I believe that a person needs to master their life, right, before you get to this stage. Now, going by your own personal experience, would you like to share with my audience, right, how practical steps that they can take? Because really, I would like to ask you this question. Mastering one's life, is it automatic? Or are there really practical steps one can take in order, to achieve this?
That's a great question. So I'll again share from personal experience. What I did was, I mentioned this earlier, the word meditation, right? So when I started my meditation journey, the way I started it was I picked up meditation, the word idea from Deepak Chopra's book, The Book of Secrets, and then I Googled it. I'm kind of like a self-learner. I want to do things myself. So I Googled what is meditation, read a whole bunch of articles. And after that, I said, okay, I'm going to start meditating myself now. Again, when you start meditating for the first time, it is difficult. Let me tell you, right? So I created a system. I said, I'm going to journal my experience. So every day I'll meditate for 5 minutes only, no more than that. And I will set a timer on my phone. This is very important. Remove all your distractions first. Remove everything around you, all distractions. Then take your phone. Now your phone is the only distraction left. So take your phone, put it to the side, but before you put it to the side, set a 5-minute timer or whatever your goal is for the day, for that month. Set that timer and then put your phone away. The timer is extremely important. Why? Because initially I realized, okay, before I set the timer, I realized that my mind was constantly thinking, oh, has it been 5